Hey guys, welcome to the pod. I'm Peas, and I've got a full ladle of peas just for you. So let's get to it. Yes, I am just Peas. Ladle is sick, and in normal circumstances, we would have just canceled the podcast today, but she and I agreed that it probably would be a good idea just to let me do it. I think she insisted that I have another guest, but I think I'm going to have a guest on Friday. So come back on Friday, listen to that. It'll be cool. So Ladle is ill, very sad, but I am here. I am also ill, so if I sound a little congested and a little under the weather, it's because I am coming down from it, and she just picked it up, so it is not good. But I think she'll be okay. Anyway, it is Monday. Welcome to the Word Day. So if you guys want to whip open your scriptures, we are going to be reading from Psalm 90 today. Psalm 90 indeed. So Psalm 90 is something that I really love because it helped me through a lot of my anxieties through freshman year. I've talked about that on this podcast before. So I'm going to read it. Actually, no, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to have Shane from Shane and Shane read it. There is a video, a live event that Shane and Shane did where he read Psalm 90 at the concert. And he reads it so beautifully. And I want you guys to hear it. I think I actually mentioned that when I did Psalm 90 for Side Note in Season 1. But I'm just going to play it for you now, and it's so amazing. I love it. Okay, here we go. I got to see if I can skip to it and make sure we don't get any ads here. Okay, here we go.
I'm going to read Psalm 90 and say a couple things, and then we're just going to sing through Psalm 90, which is a very, very, very appropriate psalm to sing in these days.
It is.
Psalm 90, verse 1 through about 14. Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations. Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God. You return man to dust and say, return, O children of man. For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night. You sweep them away as with a flood. They are like a dream, like a grass that is renewed in the morning. In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. For we are brought to an end by your anger. By your wrath we are dismayed. You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. For all our days pass away under your wrath. We bring our years to an end like a sigh. The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength, 80. But their span is yet toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we all fly away. Who considers the power of your anger and your wrath according to the fear of you? So teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. Return, O Lord. How long? Have pity on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, that we may rejoice and be glad all of our days.
And then he goes on to sing Psalm 90 by Shane and Shane, which you should definitely check out. Great song. Sorry. But verse 15 goes on to say, I'll just read it because I want to read the whole psalm. Verse 15 goes on to say, make us glad for as many days as you've afflicted us, and for as many years as we have seen evil. Let your work be shown to your servants, and your glorious power to their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands upon us. Yet establish the work of our hands. It is a beautiful psalm. It is a beautiful reading. by Shane there, and it's so powerful. Some of these verses, they really do apply to today, with just not just. I mean, a lot of times when we think of the toil of today, we think of political things and elections and different things like that, and that certainly is part of it, because there are people in power who are doing things that are against what the Lord wants. We know that as Christians, but we also know that there are other things that are going on internally that just don't affect us eternally. They're not just things that come from the outside. There's things, depression and anxieties. A lot of those things can be stirred up upon by external things like politics and stuff like that. But a lot of this stuff is talking about internal troubles, because it says verse 14 says, "Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, that we may rejoice and be glad in our days." Satisfying us doesn't always have to mean making us happy externally, because a lot of people think, okay, satisfy us, like my first thought is like food. Satisfy me with food. That's when I eat a good meal, I feel satisfied, right? But this context doesn't always mean externally. What he's speaking about, this is Moses. If you read Psalm 90 from the very top, there's that little header there that says, "A prayer of Moses, the man of God." And so satisfy us, what Moses is saying is not make our bellies full, make our bodies happy. It's an internal and eternal satisfaction of when we get to spend time with Jesus and in the Word and with the Spirit, with God, all three parts of Him. The satisfaction that we feel in our souls is it's unmatched. And that's what we want. We want to be satisfied in the morning, and not just at night or midday. We want to wake up in the morning and be satisfied with Him and His steadfast love, so that we can rejoice and be glad all of our days, and not just in the midday or on Sundays. It's got to be throughout the week. And that's what this prayer is for. And if you just read everything beforehand, like you heard, a lot of it is just this realization of, very much like Ecclesiastes or Lamentations, how short our lives are. I mean, it literally says, the years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength, 80. These are, a lot of people think Bible time guys lived forever, and they did. I mean, they didn't live forever. Only Jesus lives forever. But at least, well, never mind. That's not the point. A lot of people think Bible guys live for a very long time, for hundreds of years, and that was how it was at the beginning. If you read Genesis, you learn that Adam lived to be 980 some years old. A lot of his kids lived to be hundreds and hundreds of years old. But if you look throughout the Scripture, throughout the narrative of the Bible, you see that slowly sort of declines. And by the time you get to Moses' time, people are only living to be like 90, even hundreds of years old, a couple, 100 and maybe a little bit more. But you are to this point where it says, our years are very small. And then that next verse, verse 12 says, "So teach us to number our days, that we may get a heart of wisdom." When we realize how short our lives are, when we realize how little we are in comparison to God, it puts us into perspective of, our time on earth is so small. And it talks about our lives being like a wisp, like a breath, a mist that's gone in a very short amount of time. And so you gain this perspective of wisdom of, because I'm so small, this is not about me. And then you start to live in a different type of way that the rest of the world is living. They're living for themselves. The world lives for themselves. They live for pleasure and for their own personal gain. And when you realize how short your life is, and how much God is in control, more control than you are, you gain this perspective of wisdom. And it's just something that's hard to explain. And I don't know if that just made sense or if it didn't. But when you experience it, it's a crazy feeling. So where was I going with this? For all our days pass away under your wrath. We bring our years to an end like a sigh. If you're watching the YouTube, you saw me mouth that part. It's just got to be one of my favorites, because it says it again, that our lives are just of toil, and trouble. Where does it say that? It says it in verse. It says it in the mid part of verse 10 here. Yet their span is but toil and trouble, and they are soon gone, and we fly away. That's the verse that says our years are 70, or by measure of strength 80, and then it ends with toil and trouble, and we fly away. It's toil and trouble, and so when we die, when we come into eternity, if we've trusted in Jesus, our years come to an end like a sigh. It's like all of that work and all of that trouble and toil can finally come to an end, and we can rest. It's like sitting down in a chair. It's like laying in bed after our long days of work. It's just like finally we get to rest in the glory of God in heaven. And so this was written, I'm pretty sure, in a context where Moses was really coming to the end of to the end of his life, and he's really realizing the shortness of his life and understanding the perspective of human life. And so this psalm is just covered in that sense of, we don't have a lot of time left, and we don't have, we need to have that perspective. So yeah, I love this psalm. I love everything it has to say. And I know a lot of what I just said was a little bit of a ramble. I was kind of coming up with a lot of this on the spot, but it's just very impactful for somebody who maybe is feeling like, well, my life is finite. It doesn't matter. It does matter. That's how the end of this psalm ends. Make us glad for as many days as you have afflicted us, and for as many years as we have seen evil. Let your work be shown to your servants, and your glorious power to their children, and let the favor of the Lord God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands. That's sort of like we know that our lives are short, and our perspective needs to be that, but please just show us your love, Lord. Show us, how our lives do matter, because they do matter. Even though your life is short in comparison, you do matter, and you can do amazing things for the Lord. And so don't forget that. Let this be an encouragement to you, and maybe even a wake-up call. If you feel like you've kind of just let your life go, and you're just like, well, it doesn't matter. It does matter, but let it remind you that your life is short, and you've only got a little bit of time on this earth, so spend it well. I know I've rambled a little bit. This doesn't really it's hard to do this alone. I'll admit that. But just read Psalm 90 by yourself too, and just kind of pray over it. Understand that maybe there's something the Lord has for you. Maybe it's a wake-up call for you. Maybe it's an encouragement for you. I don't know what God has for you in this moment, but just kind of let this wash over you, because it's a really impactful psalm. I know I said that already, but it's really important, and it can be really good for your soul to remember. So yeah, I'm sorry if this is a little shorter Monday episode for you guys, but like I said, it is kind of difficult to do this without Ladle. So we miss you. I miss you, and it's hard to do alone. So yeah, come back on Wednesday. Wednesday, we're going to be talking about some fun things. I got some props for you guys. So watch the YouTube if you want. If you just want to listen to it, I'll explain it to you guys too. But yeah, thanks for joining us this week. Again, sorry if it's a little shorter, but it is difficult to not have somebody to bounce ideas off of. So maybe Ladle is going to tell me I told you so, which she might. So anyway, I will see you guys on Wednesday for another heaping healthy Ladle of Peace. Bye, guys.